Hey guys, let's go ahead and get started by creating our code snippets. So I'm going to go ahead and open up XCode, and I'm going to say get started with a playground. We're going to choose blank, and I will give it name Code Snippet Tutorial. And I'll just save it to my desktop. You can save it wherever you want, it doesn't matter. Seems like I had one that already existed. And so why should we go ahead and make code snippets? The reason why code snippets are useful is because you have code completion and you can define variables anything you want, as well as being able to have placeholders that you can define, right? So what does that all mean? Well, when I'm coding, I do a lot of constraints for UI work. So I have left constraint. And all I had to do, by the way, this is a code snippet I made, all I had to do was type in left there and it autofills. I created placeholders that you see, and then I gave them names that I can remember. So the object or view that I want to reference with the leading anchor to another object, the reference object's leading anchor, and the space between them. If I type in constraint, I wonder if I have more. Of course, I have a width constraint, bottom, height, and I can just go ahead and fill all of those out, which makes it very easy to get all my constraints done right away. Another good example is if I'm trying to create a UI element from scratch. I had a really hard time remembering these function definitions and things of that nature, but with code completion, all I had to do was kind of save them as a code snippet, and then I can say element setup, and boom. Now I can very quickly and easily go ahead and set up buttons and stuff like that without having to be like, hey, is it NS coder, A coder? Like, it's kind of hard to remember all of that. So let's go ahead and create a snippet. Another good thing about snippets is that they are project independent or playground file independent. If you create a snippet here, you can use it on any other project. So we'll just create a very simple snippet. Var string array equals an array of type string. We'll make it optional, and then we can say that it is an empty array. Now, if you are in a XCode project, you can highlight it, then right-click, and then here there is an option called Create Code Snippet. Because we are in Playgrounds, we don't have that privilege. Instead, we have to go to our main menu bar, click on Editor, and then say Create Code Snippet. And of course, we see it right here. We want to call this code snippet. You can give it any name you want. In this case, I'll just call it array string. And for summary, I'll just say basic declaration of type string optional array. The other important thing is how it autocompletes. So if I want it to autocomplete as string array, for example, string array optional, I'd go ahead and do that. And whenever I type in str, I can actually see it from the drop-down menu of potential options. Now, how do you do the placeholders? Well, that's pretty easy. All you have to do is do a less than sign, pound, greater than sign. And the reason why I did this is it's called string array now, but what if I want to give it a different name, right? What if I want to reuse this code snippet over and over? Well, if it has the same variable name, I'm just going to get an error. So that's why I made it a placeholder, and I can do all that. You can even have multiple code snippets. So let's say that, hey, sometimes I want the variable definition to be empty, and other times I don't. Well, I can go ahead and do the exact same thing. I'll add a space though. And there you go. This way, when I tab once, I can go ahead and define the name of my optional string array. And then if I tab one more time, I can enter any values instead of leaving it blank. And so I'll go ahead and hit done. And remember, completion is going to be string array optional. We have many different language options. We even have like Python and Java and all those good things. I just say Swift. Platform, you know, if you do Mac OS, iOS, I just say all, because why not? You want it available everywhere, right? And availability, all scopes. You can make it a string or comment, but just don't mess with it. All scopes, pretty easy. And boom, there we have our saved code snippet. And so now what happens if I do str? Well, I see string array optional, and if I hit tab, I get a code completion. This is actually from before, so my bad on that one. This is probably what I was looking at earlier. And we can go ahead and fill this out, right, with our different var name. And one more tab, and I'm typing my string over here. Forgot the initial quotation, but there you go. That's kind of why code snippets are powerful and how you can create your own. Now, I kind of jumped ahead there with the previous example, but if we go back to our code snippet panel, which by the way, you can also access by hitting this plus mark, let's go ahead and navigate down to our string array. I can go ahead and search for it. And here I see array string. There we go. Let's go ahead and add a comment if we wanted to. Of course, I need to hit the edit button before I add the comment. And so for the comment, example of how to declare optional string array. That's kind of poorly worded, but that's fine. Let's say that, I don't know, we also wanted like a function as part of this, right? Func. Then go ahead and add your brackets, and I don't know, like define your function here. And there you go, done. Now when I go ahead and attempt this, we now have all those extra portions. And imagine that for whatever reason you had a empty Swift document, or you just had like your view did load. Maybe you defined like a base class that you use each and every time from project to project. Well, now you can go ahead and create a completion for it. In my case, what I do is most view controllers, they'll give you view did load by default and not much else. So I have a code snippet that just define all of the different life cycle things, such as view did disappear, view did load, view will appear, basically all of those. And then I have comments saying when to use each one, so that I basically don't have to go look it up. In other circumstances, in the comments, I've actually linked to like YouTube videos and stuff like that, basically being like, this is a reference for how to use this Bluetooth module and things of that nature. I strongly encourage you that whenever you write useful code that you think you can use from place to place, maybe you're following a tutorial or something else, you turn it into a code snippet and add it to your own library. Or better yet, maybe because my library is open source, send me a pull request and I'll add your code snippet and add you as a contributor. And that's kind of what we want to do, is we want to make this into the largest code snippet library for all iOS, macOS, Swift developers essentially. And we want to say, hey, this is the easiest way to learn Xcode, and you don't have to not struggle as much because you can just type in maybe Bluetooth, and then you have all of the code snippet auto-completions for Bluetooth that do various different functionalities, such as like discovering your peripherals or actually connecting to the device. And that's kind of the goal of what I'm doing. So let me go ahead and close this out and show you where are these code snippets actually stored on your hard drive. So I will go ahead and go to Macintosh HD. How you can get to Macintosh HD if you don't have it in your favorites like I do is you would go to Computer, then you would go to Macintosh HD. Now you'll see that I have a bunch of grayed out folders and files. How you do that is you hit Command-Shift dot, and that will go ahead and toggle on and off your hidden folders. The next thing that you want to do is you want to go to your users folder. You want to go to the user where Xcode was installed. After that, you'll want to go to this hidden library folder. Then you want to make your way one more time to this library folder. I misspoke. You don't want to go there. You actually want to go to developer. Then you want to go to Xcode. And then you can go to user data. And you'll see that it created a code snippet folder right here. And so this code snippet folder, it will always be called code snippet, and that's how Xcode knows to link to the code snippet and things of that nature that you've created. If I go ahead and open this up, we can actually see the anatomy of what we've created. Remember, we called this string array optional. Then we went ahead and actually defined what it is. We created a comment, all that good stuff. So this is kind of like the anatomy of a code snippet. It's written in XML. It is a plist if you've ever worked with those. So it's pretty basic to work with. And we always want to name our code snippets because otherwise they just have this random character set that doesn't really mean anything. In this case, we want to just call it test snippet or example snippet. Now, if you don't go any further, this is where you can define all your snippets, create your own GitHub source repo if you know how to do that and all of those things. What I'm going to show you how to do is download my own code snippet repository. And that way you have access to not only like the video content I make, but all the code completions that I've done throughout my career, which, hundreds of these. Let me go ahead and also drag the folder and keep it on my left so it's a favorite tab. And that way when I click on this, I can immediately go in, and so that if I had one that I didn't name, I can just go ahead and click on this right here, maybe from a different folder, click back to code snippets and go ahead and name this whatever I want, such as example snippet. Now, how do you actually turn this into a GitHub repository? Well, you'll need to download GitHub Desktop if you haven't already, but let's go ahead and assume that you've downloaded it. I'll open up mine. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to say create a new repository on my hard drive. I'm going to call it Code Snippet. Code Snippets. It needs to be the exact same thing as the folder that you've called it here. Otherwise, Xcode will not be able to link it / find it. Description: open source code snippet repo for Swift /Xcode. Then we need to set a local path for it. User data, and I'm going to go ahead and hit open here. Initialize this repository with a readme, git ignore. We won't do that just yet. License, of course. Probably MIT license or something of that nature. I'm not going to worry about it. I have this all defined in my actual main repository. I'll go ahead and create repository. Now, if I go back to my code snippet, I'm just going to hit Command up. Let's go ahead and change file structure. Probably want this one. User data, code snippets, there it is. And we've added everything that we need to add. So we probably want to git ignore this as well. And now we've created our local repository, we need to publish it on GitHub. Call it whatever you want, do whatever you need to do. Mine will be open, and then I would just hit publish repository. And that is how you create a code snippet, as well as use them, all of that good stuff in XCode. They are really fantastic. They will save you a lot of time, especially once you start defining your own. It just becomes so well incorporated into your workflow or showing examples, all of that stuff. Thank you, and I hope you enjoyed the tutorial.